The president, by executive order, will issue second stimulus checks to Americans shortly. Viewers of this channel resoundingly say in comments overnight. The question is not, can he, but when will he? Good morning, everybody. This is Morning's LALATE. Hope you're good and safe. It's a great morning. Thank you for joining me. The toast is toasting, the butter is buttering, the coffee is brewing. I'm here, you're here. But that provision in the second stimulus package introduced yesterday from Mitch McConnell doesn't have something that we thought was going to be there and we were told was going to be there. Yes, stimulus checks. 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is Morning's LALATE every day. Thank you for joining me, part of our 3.5-hour programming block here on LALATE. If you've not subscribed and liked, certainly do so. We're at 243 subscribers, shooting for 250. More about that later in this video. But let me get to the incredible news overnight. If you did not watch our special report last night, I detailed for you exclusive details of why the president absolutely, categorically can issue an executive order to send out second stimulus checks, and why he may have already plotted that far in advance of yesterday's bill. Ironically, the Purple Power has us all doing Vulcan mind melts yesterday and today, because apparently as soon as that video went live, most of the comments were, "I told you so, LLA. I said that was going to happen to you. I've been sending that in the comments for 2 weeks. He's going to do it by executive order, that it was not going to come in Mitch's bill." I just love our Vulcan mind melt here in the Purple Power. Ironically, the vast majority of comments, starting with our evening's LALATE broadcast, there was two last night, the 6:30 and the 7 o'clock broadcast, every single comment nearly said, I had always thought the president was going to do it by executive order. I didn't think it was going to actually come by Mitch's bill. Well, here's the fascinating details as we sit here on a early morning. First, the president can issue it by executive order. Second, the president has enough funds to do it by executive order. Three, he would never have done it by bill because the money is not supposed to be moved around by congressional legislative authority. It's moved upon by executive authority. That's what's so interesting. Finally, it appears, if you look at the numbers, that this may have been the plan all along. So as we sit here today, the question is not, can he, or how can he, but rather, when will he? Before we get to that, let me go over some shocking details that might give you impetus or suggestion of when he may do it. We had talked about last night the issue of dangling the carrot, that he may do it on the eve of the election to get votes. Well, there's a series of polls out today, and everyone can have their own opinion about polls. One poll can say one thing, and another poll can say another thing. But a new poll by CNBC, the financial news channel today, shows that Biden is holding a narrow percent lead in all 6 of the swing states that have to be won to win the presidency. He's leading by 4 in Arizona. He's leading by 3 in Florida. He's leading by 6 in Michigan, 2 in North Carolina, 4 in Pennsylvania, and 6 in Wisconsin. The report says that there was no bounce by the president because of the RNC convention. Now, we can certainly all disagree about that. We can all say, hey, polls are wrong. The point is that this is now exactly the time for the president to send out the second stimulus checks. Why? Because stimulus checks result in a 3-point percentage pop in the polls, at least. And with a race that's really arguably that close, this could determine the presidency. The next issue about timing is the following, that you want to send out the checks early enough that they're actually in the hands of the American voters, in their bank accounts, cleared with the funds available for you to use. This is incredible, great news. Before not just they go in the polling place, but before they start mail-in ballots. It appears that mail-in ballots could be the critical decider in this fall election. So he would want to send out the money right then. All right, let's get to the incredible great news then about how he can do this, why he will do it, and where the money is really coming from. The most important comments that we have heard, actually the most important sentence that we've heard in upwards of 1 week, was the president's remarks last Friday saying that he had $300 billion set aside to send out for stimulus checks. It was not so much the number, but the statement of where the funds were. I reran that quote, which actually, if you don't realize, I keep quotes from all these interviews and these press conferences when they say them, and I keep them here in my file because ultimately, if they change the story, I'm ready to pull the quote, which I'm going to do this morning. Well, ironically, the president, when he described the location of the $300 billion, did not say it was in Treasury. He said it was already in a fund allocated for COVID-19 relief, dedicated and established by CARES 1, the first stimulus package back in the spring, and that had not been used and was just sitting around as unused funds to be used for emergency relief. This is exactly money that the president can use. If you don't realize what's going on, there's a legal battle. There's a legal battle as to what the president can and cannot do. The president cannot send out money from the Treasury, which is IRS, which is run by Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary to Donald Trump. He can't send out money. This is money sitting in a bank, money sitting there that has never been taken out of the bank, to make it very simplistic for you. It's sitting in the coffer, behind the door. He can't open the door and take the money out. He needs an act of Congress, 2 parts of Congress, House and Senate, to approve him to send out money from the Treasury. That's if it's money from the Treasury. Well, the $300 billion is not in the Treasury. Yes, it's not in the Treasury. It's already been taken out of the Treasury nearly half a year ago, in the early spring, for COVID-19 relief. And it's been sitting there and has not been used. This is no different than money that was taken out and put into FEMA for emergency relief, that he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to have that FEMA used for LWA, for extension of enhanced unemployment benefits. Now, if you had watched my special over the weekend, I know a lot of you were away for Labor Day weekend just relaxing and weren't tuned in on the weekend videos. There was a video that I did where I described exclusive details that I uncovered on this channel, that there's actually more than $300 billion sitting around. How much is there? There appears to be about another $200 billion on top of that. Fully understand, I'm a kid in the purple power here in Los Angeles. I don't have auditing powers, but all I have is the ability to pull news reports as to how much money has been returned from CARES Act 1 as unused funds and is just sort of sitting in coffers that President Trump can use. There is about $150 billion of PPP money from the last round, which expired just about a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, that was never used. There is PPP money from the first round that was returned by businesses that were slammed by Steve Mnuchin for taking money they were not entitled to. They returned that money. It was not reapportioned. It's just sitting around. That's about $50 billion. Did I say 200 million? I meant 200 billion. Then there's $16 billion determined last Friday that Betsy DeVos, the education secretary, was trying to divert to private schools. A federal judge said, no, that money has to be put back where it belongs. There's a lot of money that's literally sitting around that's not in Treasury. So as we sit here today, the president has authority under the Constitution to direct money that's for emergency relief, that's already in emergency funds, that's not in the Treasury, for other emergency relief. And that's stimulus checks. Yes, he can send out this money. There's a lot of money out there. There's actually, I don't want to give you anything that will make you too antsy, but I want to make this very clear. There's arguably more than enough money to give you a $2,000 check. Yeah. So we know how much money it costs to do stimulus. The first stimulus round took a certain number of U.S. residents to get paid and took a certain amount of money. And it's clearly less than $300 billion. So when we're pushing $500 billion of sitting around funds that I've been able to identify, and there's certainly probably a lot more, because I'm just sitting, here in Los Angeles with a purple shirt on. I'm not looking at their bank accounts. There's a lot of money he could send out. So, as we sit here today, why and when would he send it out? Some of the viewers had incredible comments. I just love the Vulcan mind melt that's going on. First of all, some of the viewers, I think it was on Twitter, said and tagged me and said, hey, he always issues executive orders on the weekend. I think it's going to be this Friday. I think it's going to be this Saturday. I just love how everyone's thinking alike. That's absolutely true. The president historically has has held press conferences on Friday talking about stimulus checks, and on Saturday has issued executive orders. The executive orders that are now quite famous, from that established LWA, that established a rent eviction moratorium before it was, correctly written, the payroll tax deduction, that was issued on Saturday. It was issued with no fanfare. He was literally in New Jersey at his golf club, and it was done by proclamation from the White House. It had been drafted, weeks in advance. These were very detailed executive orders. So to think that he just wrote it on a Friday afternoon is just not the case. But he announced it 24 hours earlier on a Friday afternoon. The other time Fridays has really been teed up was 2 Fridays ago, I believe, is when he said, I'm ready to send out money. Let's send out money for stimulus checks. Let's do some money for frontline workers, hazard pay. Let's do money for this, and let's do money for that. He has historically done that on Fridays. Why was this likely not in the bill? If you look at the bill, and this is what I detailed in the special last night, this is incredible news. If you look at the bill, and this is news you're going to hear nowhere else except on this channel, nowhere else. If you look at the bill, it's $500 billion. It takes about $300 billion to send out stimulus checks. Well, if you look at the bill, there was literally no room out of $500 billion to apportion $300 billion for stimulus checks. And ironically, everyone had been telling us in the White House that the bill coming out yesterday was going to be $500 billion. So how would you ever fit a $300 billion second stimulus check thing into a $500 billion bill when the remainder of the items in the bill cost more than $200 billion? 3 plus 2 equals 5. You can't. So were they always plotting for the second stimulus checks not to be part of yesterday's bill? It's likely the case. The only possible scenario is that the bill yesterday included $257 billion for PPP, and Steve Mnuchin had said PPP was not part of this bill. He had specifically said it wasn't in this bill, that it was going to be in the next bill later in September. So was stimulus checks taken out of yesterday's bill and PPP put in there? It doesn't look like it, because $257 billion for PPP, if you took out $300 billion and you put in $257, that means the bill is now suddenly smaller. It doesn't seem as though that happened. Now, there is that. Additionally, there's questions as to really what is in this bill and why is it in the bill. $257 billion for PPP makes absolutely categorically no sense. If you did not just hear what I said about 2 minutes earlier in this video, the last round of PPP remained with $150 billion, between 120 to $200 billion of PPP money not used. People just didn't want it. They didn't want PPP. So why are they going back to ask for more PPP? And why so much money? 257 is an exorbitant amount of money. It's really not quite clear. There is that. Then there are Mitch McConnell's remarks yesterday. Mitch McConnell, before he announced the bill, had said what the bill was going to be for. Today, the Senate Republican majority is introducing, this was before he did it, a new targeted proposal focused on some of the very most urgent health care. Well, it does cover health care, education, and economic issues. No, that's not really accurate. Working families may not suffer more than necessary. Well, the word working suggests enhanced unemployment benefits, the press statement is a lot of mealy mouth. I had gone through it with you yesterday morning, and I said it sounds like a lot of the words are stimulus checks, but it's a very mealy mouth sentence. The question is whether or not this will be where we're going. The irony of the situation is that before yesterday, Steve Mnuchin, before a House subcommittee, said that the president's ready to set out stimulus checks in the next stimulus bill to be introduced to the Senate. Mark Meadows, boy, not just once, not just twice, but I think it was almost 6 times, said that yesterday's bill will have a round of second stimulus checks in it. Larry Kudlow said that the president wants to send out stimulus checks this round right away. Mike Pence said that no one more than anyone else wants to give you stimulus checks, second stimulus checks right away. And we just keep on going down the list. Everyone said that stimulus checks will be in there. Now here's the catch, and no one's going to really identify this except me, because I keep a copy of all the quotes and when they say them and how they say them and where they say it. It was all Fox News, it was here, it was there. Notice something interesting about all the quotes? They were all said before the president's press conference last Friday, when he said, you know what, I found $300 billion and I'm ready to send it out as stimulus checks. Did something happen later last week that changed a revision of yesterday's bill, or changed an entire approach to the situation? It's interesting, and ultimately this depends. This again falls back to one of the big problems of the second stimulus package, which is not the congressional leaders, it's not you, it's not me, it's not Temple Doom, it's the reporters. No one, and I saw these in the comments, no friggin' damn reporter ever seems to have their damn head screwed on right. No one could ask Mitch McConnell yesterday, where's the stimulus checks? Why was it not in there? No one can reach out to the White House, Mark Meadows, Steve Mnuchin, and say, you told us second stimulus checks were in yesterday's bill. Why aren't they in there? No one asked this damn question? It's starting to become like a running gag about how bad these news reporters are. They can't ask the most obvious questions. Now, it's not like they don't know that second stimulus checks was an issue this week. It's not like no one was talking about it. The president tweeted it all, yes, talked about it ad nauseum Friday, talked about it on Monday. Now, so when Mark Meadows sits down for an interview this week, which he will, and when Steve Mnuchin sits down for an interview this week, and he will, and when the president has a press interview, he will, what are you going to do? You should certainly tag the news reporters. Say, listen, ask them where the damn stimulus checks are. Why weren't they in Mitch's bill? But I think we already know the answer. I think we already know the answer. Because it's coming by executive order, potentially. It's likely coming by executive order. The question as we sit here today may ultimately be, not when, not how, not by what means, but will. Will the president emphatically exert his executive authority to send out the second stimulus checks? Because as the other set of comments that I saw from you overnight was, well, why hasn't he done it yet? The answer might be that he was unable to locate this $300 billion until just a few days ago. And that's why he may not have sent out the money. Not that it was a dangling carrot. Not that he's trying to use your votes, get your votes by sending out a check on the eve of the election. That he may have only found the funds in the last few days. And the two, the two pieces of evidence that suggest that are, one, that PPP was not supposed to be part of the second stimulus package, was supposed to be in the one coming in late September. It's now in there, and stimulus checks is not in there. And two, that all these people of his White House said that stimulus checks were in there, and yet no one has commented since the bill has been introduced. Finally, one of the most important things that you'll never hear about on any other channel except this one is when he does an executive order, if he does, to send out the second stimulus checks, what will happen? There is likely no one in their right mind who has legal authority to challenge it. If you don't understand, when you file a lawsuit to challenge an executive action by the president, you have to have what's called standing. You have to have the ability to go into court to challenge the order. Generally, these things are done by state attorney generals because they are things that concern the states. For example, California's attorney general or Washington's attorney general goes to court when it says that you have to do this thing about DACA and you have to do this thing about foreign students in our universities. They have standing because it concerns people that are in their state. Here, he's just sending out stimulus checks from a fund that has nothing to do with the states. So attorney generals would really not have standing to bring this to court. So who would be left? Yeah, her, Temple Doom. And would she really go to court to block stimulus checks landing in the hands of American people who are desperate in the times of need to get stimulus checks to prevent homelessness, poverty, and hunger? No, it would be political suicide. So in the end, he has the card. He has the card. He just has to use it. Today we start the morning with 243,000 subscribers. It's a good morning. We're trying to get to 250. Go to the front show and hit the subscribe and alert button. I have a surprise for you. Yeah. If we get to 250 in, let's see, that's 7,000 away. If we get to 250 in the next 48 hours, I will release a never-before-seen video that I taped for the 100,000 subscriber special, which never aired on this channel. You'll enjoy it. It was shot on location, and I never aired it. I didn't air it because, it didn't have the best of lighting, and there was a production time schedule problem at that time that I just didn't have time to get around to it. But if you get this channel to 250,000 subscribers in the next 48 hours, that's 7,000 more, then I will release that 100,000 subscriber special for you, and you'll enjoy it. It has insight into this channel you've never seen before, stuff off camera you've never heard of before, and stuff that will really shock your socks off. So go to the front channel and hit the subscribe and alert button. Also, like this video. It helps the algorithm. Thank you. Yesterday, we were appearing first in the rank a lot of times for some of the videos. Let's keep it up. Join me this afternoon in the afternoons at LALATE at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time with the check. That's a 2-hour programming block check, hazard pay, FPUC and unemployment, and then rent. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay up LA for more.